Let's first start with the big job. Everyone aspires, that I know, to get to C-suite. So, can you tell us a little bit about how you got to C-suite? What was your path to get there and your advice to everyone in your shoes several years ago that's trying to get there?
So I wish I had a story that was very intentional and I took all of these magical steps that I could package up and give to you, and those would be the secret sauce to getting to the C-suite. But the reality for me is I actually never thought that this opportunity or being in the C-suite was available to me. And that's mainly because I followed a lot of the myths that I was told. Like, one, you have to have your MBA if you want to be in marketing. Well, I was a CMO in marketing without an MBA. The
Mhm.
other was, my style or my path wasn't one that would lend itself to the C-suite. So I actually navigated my career without that intentional process of thinking through the roles, the experiences that I garnered. So I actually coach people so much differently now than I would have taken the path that I did before. And that's really about being intentional. And the way that I tell folks to be intentional is think through in two ways. One, in a career oriented way. So, what are the type of roles, experiences that you need to collect to make yourself marketable, both within the organization that you are in? You all know the culture, the politics, the rules. What is the unwritten rule in the game that you're playing within the corporation that you're in? Do you understand it? Do you know how decisions are made? Do you know how performance is evaluated? Understanding those things, and then what are the experiences that are of value to allow you to get to different roles? So if they're looking for a specific type, so if your company's looking for somebody with a lot of analytical skills, what analytical projects or roles can you take on that make you more well-rounded for that next role? The other piece is to make sure you have a keen eye on what's going on in the industry. So if
Mhm.
there's companies that you're excited about, no one's telling you have to leave the company that you're in, but as a for-profit entity, it's very important that you're marketable, not just within your organization, but externally. So think about potential companies you may want to work for and understand what are the requirements for their roles so that you're not only making yourself very much so promotable within the organization that you're in, but you're making yourself marketable and you're making sure you maintain an income outside of the organization that you're in. So that's one part. The other part is personally. This always makes people a little bit uncomfortable. What kind of lifestyle do you want to have? Depending on
Mhm.
the type of lifestyle you want to have, you have to think about the type of roles that will afford you that lifestyle. That also helps you navigate what type of roles you want to accept. If you want to work a 9 to 5 and don't want to work in the morning or in the evenings or on weekends, then that's going to really focus you in on certain types of roles and certain type of jobs. If you have periods in your life where you want to overextend yourself, but you're going to know there's periods of downtime, those are also things you should think about. So it's really about balancing the type of career you want with the type of lifestyle you want to fund.
Wow. That is really great advice. And I think about my own self and I'm like, I didn't think about it that way, but I'm with you on the MBA. I always said Amazon was the cheapest MBA I didn't have to pay for. A lot of people come there with MBAs and I didn't have one, but that's how I learned e-commerce. So I'm with you on that.
Same, I learned, on the job.
Yeah, totally. Okay, so one of the things that has really stuck out that you said to me once, and it was when we were practicing for an unbox, keynote presentation, and I had just seen you on stage. It was like a bit, you were on the Jumbotron of Netflix or some kind of big presentation. And I said to you, it
The
was like,
Lincoln Center in New
you
York.
consider, yeah. And I was like, you told me that you do things that you feel uncomfortable with, and you say yes to them. And so that has always just stuck out as like great advice for me and what I've done because of that. But what are other guiding principles or pieces of advice like that you give to women or to people on your team?
Yeah, I would say I do things that often scare me. Um,
Hmm.
Mainly because I know that fear is a construct of the limitations that I put on myself. Oftentimes, what I found was my fear. Once I go through the playlist of okay, what's the worst thing that can happen in the moment? It usually lands on I can end up sleeping on my sister's couch. Okay, it's a pretty nice couch. I'll be okay. But once I actually go through the exercise of like, what's the worst that can happen and really take that down to the bottom level, you see my therapy is showing, it actually gives me the confidence to say that even if I fail, even if I fall on on my face in this moment, the worst thing that can happen is X. And you know what? It's not that bad. So I typically try to do things scared. I think it's important to understand and be self-aware of your emotions. I present extremely confident, but I am a very insecure person. So oftentimes I tend to listen to the little hater in my head, and sometimes I just need to quiet her down so that I can do things. And once I've tackled them, then I really look back and I'm like, really, what was I afraid of? So that's just one tip that I use for myself that helps me really push things through. The other piece, there's two parts to the career advice that I've been given. One is to live below your means. Oftentimes in meetings and things like that, when you're scared to say the things that need to be said, it's often because you think about that worst thing that could happen, which is I could lose my job and end up on my sister's couch or whatever that thing is for you. But if you put yourself in a financial position where it allows you to be able to live in your truth, but speak your truth in an appropriate professional way at all times, that actually helps set you apart from others who may be playing a political game that may not allow them to show how smart, what a strong perspective they have, and how they actually think about the business. And I think the last piece for me, which has been so critical, is sponsorship. What I love about sponsorships, and you have to know the difference. Mentorships, sponsorships are very different things. Sponsors are the people that, are speaking about you in rooms that you're not in. They're putting you in for roles, they're putting you in for projects and assignments. Oftentimes, the sponsors that I've had have solved something in me that I didn't see in myself. And now that I play the role as a sponsor more than most, I do find that I see potential in people that they actually don't see in themselves. So I tend to listen to those sponsors. So if they say you could do this job, I say thank you and talk to them about how, what are the bridges, what are the next steps. I don't relish or spend too much time on the I don't think I can do this. I don't think I'm ready for it because you're never actually ready for anything until you do it. So, that's how I typically push through and maneuver through the world and navigate, the little hater in my head that's telling me that I can't do something to really give myself the confidence to do it anyway. And when
Wow.
you met me, I was at that point where I was saying yes to everything. Now I'm
Yeah.
at the point where I'm trying to figure out what are the things that I say no to and what are the things I say yes to without feeling guilty. Um, because I do sometimes feel like I can't say no, but boundaries are sexy and it's important to have them. And one piece of advice that I would especially give women, especially women of color, is to really be able to say no in the best way to non-promotable work. So as you're picking those things you say yes to, think about, does this have business impact that I can brag about later on? And it's important to brag, and I use that word specifically because you got to get comfortable with talking about yourself and how awesome you are at things. If you can't scream about your superpowers, then other people aren't going to be able to as well too. Does this project give me an experience that I can put in my little basket that allows me to be more marketable? Is this something that's connected to a P&L? And especially women, we have to be very focused on saying yes to those things that are going to allow us to get those experiences that allow us to have the careers that we've envisioned.
How did you find your sponsors?
So there's a couple of different ways. Typically, sponsors identify you, and you may not even know if you have a sponsor or not. One of the cool things about being new to a role is I can typically help my teammates figure out who their sponsors are. Because, when you're new into a role, there will be people that will come up to you and be like, oh, that woman, Jen, she's fantastic. She did X, Y, and Z. I love the way she thinks. You know what? That's a sponsor. You may need to activate them, but that's a sponsor. I would ask questions, to folks on if somebody is mentoring you and they think you're awesome at something, see if they are willing to, leverage their brand and extend themselves for you. So sometimes that comes in the realm of you actually asking them, hey, if there's a project that allows me to get X, Y, and Z experience, would you consider me for this experience or would you recommend me? Then that lets you know if they say yes and they follow through, because the follow through is critical. A lot of times people will say yes and they may not follow through, and they follow through, then you know that they're a sponsor. So really it's about killing it at your day job, doing an awesome job, being recognized. So that means you got to pick your head up sometimes and be visible, so that your sponsors can identify you. And it's also in the follow through. Just because somebody tells you how smart and pretty you are all the time, and by the way, ladies, I'm using that facetiously, just because they tell you that doesn't make them a sponsor. Sponsorship is an active verb. They have to be doing something on your behalf and your benefit.
Important for you to have a sponsor, that's for sure. So tell me at Hello, which I think you consider it a emerging slash challenger brand. Is that right? Okay.
Definitely challenging the norms within a lot of the categories we play.
And a fun brand at that. I love it. So what lessons have you learned from big established companies that have translated well, and what hasn't translated well that you've thrown out the window?
Throughout my career, been fortunate enough to work for larger CPGs to get that mix of working with, 200-year-old brands to, 5 to 10-year-old brands. And really at the center of everything is that human experience, which is why brands can last to be 200 years old because of the relevancy. Like, are you staying relevant with your consumer? Are you offering them something that's exceptional? What is your point of difference in the marketplace? And are you speaking and talking about it in a way that connects with consumers? So that holds true regardless of the brand that you have. So having that nuance and being meticulous about the details and everything that you do. I think what for emerging brands, what is really critical is you think about your business model differently. So if you're in the consumer product good industry like I'm in, it's not just about winning the consumer and winning the hearts and minds of the consumer. I also have to win the buy-in and the back of our retailer partners. So for
Mhm.
some of the more established legacy brands, you already have that guarantee. You're the incumbent. You kind of have some of that built in. But establishing those relationships means, even, me, I'm at the buyer meetings. I'm in there really helping them understand what our brand is. Really being meticulous about every single dollar that you spend. When you're a smaller brand and your P&L is shaped that much differently, like $50,000 for some of the larger brands I worked on would be a rounding error, even $100,000. Every single penny matters when you're an emerging brand, and you have to ruthlessly interrogate every single dollar, every single penny. And when you're in a position like we are at Hello, where you're a subsidiary for a larger brand like Colgate Palmolive, it's really being smart about when you leverage the mothership, I affectionately like to call it, and when you do things a little bit differently because you have the flexibility to move with speed. That is always going to be on a case by case basis. And I think the last piece is really, really thoughtful about how you scale, because scaling too quickly can really put you in a poor business position, but scaling with intention and with thoughtfulness can allow you to really grab a foothold and be consistent in your growth. And I do think the last piece is, I find with emerging brands, there is a lot more fragility. And
Hmm.
knowing that, and especially for me, being a steward of a brand in a moment in time, especially an emerging brand, that brand may or may not be here in a few years. So it's really important that you have very much so a focus on attention to detail, and every little bit of data is critical. Larger brands have bigger data sets that they can go off of. You've got to leverage whether it's the comments or it's even one-on-one conversation. Every data point has to inform the decisions that you make. So it's really critical that you keep your ears open.
Hmm. Super interesting. All right. One of the challenges, especially maybe younger women in their careers or as they're climbing the ladder, and especially as they have younger families, they have a big struggle balancing their career, their family, their, work commitments, and anything outside. What's your advice of how you've approached balance? You talked a little bit about setting boundaries, but one is what do you do outside of work, like boards or things that you're interested in, and how do you find the time for all the things that you're doing with the big job?
I'll be very candid. I don't think you actually can balance it all. I think you
Hmm.
have to make choices. And I think you have to be thoughtful about where you are in your life at any moment in time. At one point in time, I have a very high medical needs family. Several family members I had were sick. That probably wouldn't be the best time to take on a new job. That might not be the best time, to make a big risky move, because you have to understand that your energy source is being pulled in a lot of different directions. So really being realistic about where you are in that moment in time, and knowing that it is finite, and you can shift at any point in time is really important. And having that kind of self aware conversation with your village, the people around you, is really critical. At that moment, my husband was also sick at the time as well too. And there's a couple of things that I just decided, you know what, this is not giving me anything. I'm not doing it anymore. I stopped sending out Christmas cards, which I was religious about at
Mhm.
that period of time, because the anxiety of just getting the perfect card together and getting that out the door wasn't what I felt was the best place to put my energy. I would rather put my energy and really enjoying that time of year with my family than stressing about having the perfect Christmas card to go out. That seems like a very simple, silly thing, but if you think about the energy that gives you back and the mental health that it helps you protect, those type of decisions are the ones that we often put on ourselves, that pressure that's unnecessary. I'm a mom. There are things that I don't that I miss. There are some times that I miss things, but I know that I have a village. So if I can't be there, I've got my aunts and uncles, my cousins there as well too. And I show up for the very important things. From a cultural standpoint, I want to make sure that, my family, my culture, we maintain that. So I prioritize that as well too. So you have to make the choices about the things that are important to you and your family. And I have found incorporating your family, especially your kids when they get to a certain age, around really defining what those things are that are important. I was killing myself to get to every single thing for my son's school and be at everything and volunteer at everything. And he was like, "Yeah, mom, I kind of really just want you to be at the play. Like that's the
Mhm.
thing that's important to me." And so once I figured that out, I was like, "Okay, that's the thing that's important to you. Great. I'm still going to try to do some of the other things because some of them I just want for memories to be a part of." But it allowed me to really focus in on his needs and what was important to him. I do the same thing with my nieces who are really critical to my life. Like, what are those things you really want me to be at or want me to be a part of? And then how do I create special moments and memories with the people I care about? And then the last thing for me is it's very important to me to show and set an example for the young people in my life, whether they're related to me or not, of what it means to be a whole and complete person, which means I do prioritize things that feed and are important to me because I'm still growing and evolving. So while it's important for me to also do that things and be there for my family, being on boards, the energy that I get from work, those are also things that feed me as an individual and as a person. And I
Mhm.
want to raise whole, happy contributors to a global society. And hopefully they see me as an example. They see me do it well sometimes. They also see me misstep and course correct, and we have open conversations about it. So, in an unfulfilling answer, basically, I don't think you can have it all, but you can choose the things that are important to you and your family.
It's funny you say that about Christmas cards because I remember one year I had the flu and I sent out 100 Christmas cards and I think I got stamps on two of them. And they all came back to me. And I spent all that time doing the envelopes and doing the card and I was like, I'm done. Not doing Christmas cards ever again. And I gave that one up. And then the one where you say like what's important to your kids and be there, that's such a great message because it's like you have the guilt that you're not there for the kids, but then it's like understanding like, do you want me at your soccer game? Oh, you don't? Okay, then I will be at something you really want me to be at. So that is such like a good way to think about it as well.
And I find too, like, I actually don't, my son doesn't put a lot of the guilt on me. I do it myself.
Yeah.
Or somebody will say something, somebody very unintentionally at the school had said, because my husband works closer to the school, so he's there more, like, "Oh, I've never met you before." And that hurt my heart. Like, I was like, "Oh my God." But really, they were just excited to meet me. But so I think we also have to be mindful of the stories that we've told ourselves and the messages that we thought of what it means to be a mother, what it means to be a wife, and we need to take ownership of those things and define them for ourselves and our family and really hold ourselves accountable to live into them.
All right. Last question. Any book or podcast that inspires you?
Okay, so many. But right now I'm reading The Power of Moments. It's an older book. But with Hello, we're all about magical moments and taking the mundane moment and making it magical. And the book really talks about how you create a lasting impression. I've actually found that this book is really helping me think about not just moments with brands, but also how I do that with my family and individuals to really make memory constructs that they can look back on. So that's what excites me. I'm also a big dork. So if you're someone that's totally into your brand, like I am in there reading all the comments, reading everything, making sure like I hear things and pull things directly from the consumer. And then I love to make sure I clear my brain and take some time. Like you give me a good romance novel, you have a recommendation, I'm in it. Um, Not so much into the reality TV shows, but you give me a romance novel and it just gives me a beat to remove myself from a lot of the stressors in life and just have like a fun, mushy moment.
I'm with you. Awesome. Well, thank you so many nuggets in this interview. Really appreciate your time. And I love the lips behind you. Looks like a very,
Yes,
very
this is
clean
a hello
mouth.
office.
Very clean mouths behind you. So
Yeah.
thank you.
Well, thank you so much for having me and extending your platform.